Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and welcome to the review of Daredevil Born Again, Season 2, Episode 6, entitled Requiem, which comes to us from the good folks over at Marvel Television and Disney Plus. How is everybody doing out there? I hope everyone is doing just well. Well, at least doing better than Vanessa Fisk, RIP, which is where we left off last week in episode 5, where Vanessa, she finally succumbed to her injuries that was sustained by that figurine thrown by Bullseye, deflected by Kingpin nonetheless, but hit her in the head. We had a brain surgeon come in, say he's going to do the best he can and give it the old college try and save Vanessa. It looked like she was going to pull through, but there was when she woke up, there were gaps in her memory to the point where she just succumbed to her injuries and passed away. And that's how the episode ended. And all week, all I can think about the havoc that Kingpin was going to wreak on New York City following the death of his beloved. And so we open up this episode, episode 6, Requiem, with Kingpin still at the bedside of Vanessa, who has passed away. He's holding her hand. He's sobbing, understandably. And the doctor walks in, the one who performed the surgery. And immediately I'm like, well, grand opening, grand closing for this dude, because he's going to get it. And he made it so much worse. So much worse. He tried to comfort him with words, and none of those words. It got me mad what he was telling him. It was like, oh, he wasn't going like religious with it. Oh, brother, just go in prayer. And nothing like that. He just gave this Zen answer or response, or not even response, because Kingpin didn't say nothing. Nobody asked you for comfort at this moment. But he felt the need to give this prepared speech. Puts his hand on Wilson's shoulder. And Wilson just looked at his hand. He didn't even look the dude in the eye as he was talking. He's just looking at his hand. And Wilson Fisk, he stands up, and the doctor says something to the effect like it was a great honor treating your wife. And that was it. That was the straw. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, literally, because Wilson Fisk gave the doctor a hug, and we know that Wilson Fisk gives the greatest bear hugs of all time. Literally squeezed this man to death, breaking his spine and just plopping him on the floor like he was nothing, which he was. At that point, we cut to Vanessa's funeral, where Wilson is donning his all-white suit, his patented all-white suit. His people are there. You got Buck, you got Sheila's there, Heather's there, Daniel. All of them are present to give respect and their condolences at that time. Wilson Fisk, he lays a red rose on an all-white coffin. Beautiful scene, beautifully shot. And so meanwhile, elsewhere, we have Matt. Him and Karen are watching over a recuperating Bullseye that, when we left off last week, Daredevil brought Bullseye to their little hideout with Karen, and Karen just gave a look like, are you serious? And that was the end of that. So we pick up, he's being nursed back to help. Soda Dad is helping out, stapling his wounds and whatnot. And there's of course some tension there with Karen and Matt. Karen is like, oh, you got to be kidding me, man. I mean, this dude literally killed our best friend in front of our faces. And you're here helping him, so that's a tension that's growing throughout the episode, but it actually was kind of teetering all season, but now it's reaching its boiling point. Elsewhere, we cut to Mr. Charles, who's played by the great Matthew Ritter, and he goes to try to retrieve the weapons that were on that ship that Kingpin sunk a few episodes ago. Goes in the warehouse and finds it empty. It's empty. Well, Wilson had beat him to the punch, and so now he's frustrated, to say the least. Kingpin, he reneges on their deal, and we then see Officer Powell and the task force unloading the weapons in a different location. We get the credits, and then after the credits, we get the long-awaited MCU debut of a character that I fell in love with on Netflix when they were shelling out these shows, starting with Daredevil and Punisher and Luke Cage. And there was another show in there, no, not Iron Fist, but it was another show in there that I deeply loved, at least that first season, and that was Jessica Jones. And Krysten Ritter as Jessica Jones is money. I didn't like the second season, but I always loved her as this character. I didn't really follow that character in the comics. I knew a little bit about her because I know in the comics, I think her and Peter Parker had a relationship at one point. It's no way to do it now in the MCU, but in the comics, that was a thing. Yes, the Luke Cage relationship was a thing, and is even more so a thing here because we cut to this suburban home, and this mom is talking to her little daughter. And they don't show her face. We just see the back of the actress playing the mother. And all of a sudden, this little hit squad pulls up to the house, and the mother gold rushes outside, and all you hear is this chaos as the little girl is inside playing around, and they got this flash grenade that is thrown in the house, and it's beeping, and it's steady beeping while this mom is just handling business outside to these assassins, would-be assassins. And the little girl picks up the grenade and just playing with it like it's a little wand, doing what little girls do. I didn't think little girls were that naive. Little boys, yes. But little girls, no. But it was weird, but cute nonetheless. But it did add tension to the scene because the beeping on that grenade was it was intensifying. It was getting quicker and quicker and quicker. And at any moment that thing's about to go off while this little girl is holding it and playing with it like it's an actual toy. And there's no sign of the mom coming in. You just keep hearing her beating up people on the outside. And you're like, oh my God. Oh my God, this girl is going to die. And it's going to be really, really bad. But right before the beeping gets to a stop, we see the mom comes in and stops it, and they finally show her face, and it's none other than Jessica Jones herself, Krysten Ritter, reprising her role. The cute thing about it, okay, cool, Jessica Jones has a daughter. Now, all this was spoiled in the trailers. The scene when he tells Matt that they tried to hurt my daughter and all this other stuff. They spoiled all that in the trailers, which was stupid. I think they should have kept that because it would have been more of an impact here. Because honestly, once the scene started, when you see the little girl and you see the mom there, you're like, oh, it's Jessica Jones. Even though you knew she was coming, but you still wanted to be a little surprised there. But nonetheless. But the key element here was the fact. Now, once again, shouldn't be a surprise if you watch the Netflix Marvel shows and Jessica Jones and the Defenders and Luke Cage and all this stuff. It shouldn't be a surprise. The fact that the child is mixed. The child is the daughter of Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. I thought that was a cool element here. Even though I knew it, but it was cool to see that they're going forward with it. And so you have that there. We go back to the little hideout that Daredevil and Karen has, and we still see Soda Dad working on Bullseye, treating his wounds, and she suggests that he needs to go to the hospital, and Daredevil's like, oh no. No, you take him to the hospital, he's gonna die. They're gonna kill him. And Karen is like, okay. Okay, maybe he should go. It's because she believes he should be dead. That he killed our best friend. Or at the very least, let Wilson Fisk catch him and torture him to death, or one of the two. And so, Angela Del Toro, or the White Tiger, she gives Karen an update on what's going on in the city. You have it's pretty much segregated. Half of the city is mourning Vanessa. The other half are concerned about the disappearances taking place around the city. Matt, he wants an update on Kristoff, and Karen tells him her source should be dropping the interview footage any day now. So she then asks him whether he remembers Bullseye attack on that church. That was in the Netflix version of Daredevil in season 3. Yeah, season 3. And when he killed the priest and left Matt almost dead. He was on the brink of death. And so at that time, she remembers Matt wanting to kill Fisk. And she told him not to. She basically talked him out of it. And now she's wondering whether she was wrong for doing that. Because now Matt literally won't pull the trigger. He will not kill. He has that code. And so Matt said she wasn't. Because this is what separates him from the villains. It separates him from Bullseye or Fisk. And so she wonders whether this fight doesn't end until one of them go down permanently. Somebody has to die. In order for this to truly stop, somebody's going to have to die. And she tells Matt to start concentrating on putting Kingpin down once and for all. You're going to have to put him down. Because if he gets the opportunity, Fisk isn't going to hesitate. He's not going to hesitate at all. And so Matt has to leave to meet, quote unquote, somebody. And Karen asks him what he wants her to do with Bullseye. And he tells her to watch over him. And to remember, vengeance isn't justice. That doesn't justify he's killing somebody, doesn't justify the true outcome, because you're still gonna have that hole to fill. And so after the funeral, we see the governor talking to Sheila and is worried that Fisk's next move, what is he gonna do next? And so she's getting a lot of pressure from outside sources and may have to take action against him sooner rather than later. And so she suggests a potential mayoral run for Sheila. Now, once again, and this is spoilers for Spider-Man Brand New Day. If you don't want to hear it, even though it's in the trailer. So it's not really a spoiler, and that's where I got my information. And I don't have an inside source, unfortunately. If you watch the Spider-Man trailer, and if you haven't watched it, once again, this is a spoiler warning. She's the mayor. in the trailer, Sheila is the one giving Spider-Man the key to the city. So we already know what's going to happen at the end of this little brouhaha, which it really shouldn't be a shock, but I know some out there haven't, they stay away from spoilers, but it is what it is. Anyway, Daniel's birthday. And BB, she wishes him a happy birthday. She says that they should do something to celebrate. But he's not in the mood. You know, he just seen his mentor's wife murdered and just went to the funeral. Uh, he's not feeling it. He's not in a festive mood. But BB, she insists, and he admits that he was going to dear old mom's house later on, and she asks if she can tag along. You know, can I come? Yo, to meet my mom, you know what I'm saying? It's weird. It's not like we were officially dating or anything. There's been none of that. But you want to come to my mom's house? Come on. And so Buck, he interrupts their conversation and attempts to intimidate BB, who reminds him she's a journalist. After she leaves, Buck tells Daniel to put himself together. He knows that Daniel is smitten with BB, and you know, but there's something's not right about her. You know, Buck is like, this information is getting out. This information is being leaked some shape, form, or fashion. The only thing I could think of, and I'm just paraphrasing what what Buck was saying in less words, but it's her. It's her, but we can't prove it. And so he tells him to feed BB a fake story. And so if it gets out, if that fake story gets out, we know that she is the mole. She is the one leaking information. And so Buck says, hey, we'll take care of it. If it leaks, I'll take care of it. You ain't got to worry about it, you know. And so Fisk, he gets his car. He gets a call from Mr. Charles, who's not too happy about the weapons coming up missing and being moved. So he begins to berate Kingpin, who simply just hangs up the phone. He doesn't even talk. He just hangs up in his face. And so at the same time, people start to protest outside of the memorial service. Daredevil, he links up with Jessica Jones. That is the person he had to meet. And she is pissed. She is hot as fish grease because these soldiers showed up at her house and put her daughter in danger. You know, they're understandably so. And so she tells Matt that she done some digging. You know, let's not forget she's a private investigator. So she did some digging into who is providing Wilson Fisk cover to smuggle these drugs, not drugs, but guns, and confirms it's a faction of the U.S. government. So it goes deeper than what they thought, or what Matt thought. And Jessica tells him about how Mr. Charles tried to recruit her in the past. And she declined his invitation, to put it mildly, what she told him, but others did join. And it suggested the way it was kind of put out there that her husband took the offer. Now, here's the question I have. Is it Luke Cage? Because when we last left Luke Cage, he was king of Harlem. He really was going towards the dark side. And they canceled the show, so we didn't know how that was going to play out. I couldn't stand the end of that season. I couldn't stand where they were going with the Luke Cage character. But I did like the show nonetheless. Either way, there was no indication that they were, quote unquote, together, or that they were on the verge of getting married or anything like that. But you can clearly see that they did have a little bundle of joy along the way. And that child is about, I don't know, 7, 8, somewhere around that range. And so I don't know. I don't know if it's Luke Cage. But why would Luke Cage join the government? But maybe that is possible though. But we'll see. We'll see down the line. They didn't really go in depth with it. That's all they really mentioned about that part of it. So we'll see how that goes. Matt, he can sense something is wrong with Jessica. and tells her that, it sounds like you got broken ribs. Now that's how gangster Matt Murdock is. He can listen to her breathing and tell that she's having trouble breathing, and maybe the ribs are broke, which she did kind of confirm. And so she admits that, after giving birth to to her daughter, her powers sometimes drop in and out, which is interesting. And so Matt asks about their child Danielle, and Jessica says she's a handful, but she's doing good. So based on her lead in her little investigation, um, the two head to the task force warehouse where the guns are currently being stored. And so they deduced that while the guns were initially being run for Charles, they're now being used for the task force, which isn't good news for the city of New York. So Jessica asks Daredevil if she wants to cause some trouble. And so the two of them collectively go into the warehouse and have a glorious battle. I actually enjoyed that little fight scene. And it was good to see Jessica Jones get loose yet again. It's been so long, and man, Krysten Ritter didn't miss a step. She is still beast mode like she was in the Netflix series. And so after the tussle with the task force, the warehouse was partially on fire, but with all that ammunition and explosives in there, it basically destroyed all the weapons, and the entire warehouse goes down in flames. And so I guess mission accomplished at that point. And so back at the Wilson Fisk, we have Heather. Now, Heather is a very interesting character this season. I've made it known, couldn't stand that character in season one. I'm really enjoying her in season two. She is. I'm curious to see where they're going with this character, because she is dealing with some post traumatic stress that is, man, I feel bad for her, but she's still doing some evil stuff as well that make you can't stand her. But it's a good balance that's being displayed with this character that I am intrigued by. And Heather, we find her in the bedroom. She's staring at Vanessa's old belongings, her jewelry and stuff like that. She steals a pair of earrings, and Buck walks in on her, and she begins to open up about her experience that happened last season with Muse. And she describes to him the pain Muse inflicted and broke down in tears. And Buck was like, well, what did he do to her? Do to you? And she was like, well, he cut me, and he choked me. And Buck was like, okay, well, show me. Show me. I mean, Buck went all in, and he allowed Heather to choke him, and she was choking him, boy, and he was letting her, and he was really being choked. That was a cool little scene on the slick style. It was a cool little scene. But Buck did snap her back into reality, and it looks like those two are gonna have a thing going forward. And so we go back to Daniel's mother's house, where they're celebrating his birthday. BB is there as well. BB tells him that the task force raids are making everything worse for the city, and Blake is like, hey, the vigilantes just killed Vanessa. And BB tells him that, well, she was there too. I seen everything. Yeah, you can't spin the lies. Daniel, he takes a second, he thinks about it, and he's like, you know what? And he feeds this false story that Wilson Fisk is not running for re-election, and she buys it. She's like, oh, really? I mean, this is the one thing about the BB character I can't stand. I don't know if it's the actress or the way this character is written. She's so stupid at times. To be a journalist and not see through the bull crap. And she just couldn't see that he was so open to tell this story. And she took it, I mean, immediately, like, oh, Really? Didn't try to vet it or nothing. You know, that's what kills me with this character. But other than that, I like the BB character, but just moments like that, and the fact that Blake, well, I understand him. He's blinded by love or infatuation, and he can't see past his own nose when it comes to BB. So I kind of get him. But now, after leaking that story to her, or that fake story, fake news to her, he has to sit back and wait to see if this hits the news press. And so Powell and the rest of the task force, they regroup. Powell, confirms that this was indeed Jessica Jones, and she was helping Daredevil. He also finds Officer Sanders. Now, if you remember Officer Sanders from a couple of episodes ago, who were helping Daredevil and Karen, and he actually gave Daredevil that key card to go and rescue those captors or prisoners that were being held by the task force. And so Daredevil had ended up dropping that card during the escape, and Powell found it. So he gave the key card back to Sanders, and it's the same key card that, of course, he gave to Daredevil. And immediately you knew that Sanders' days, minutes, or seconds were numbered. He knew that Daredevil didn't take it from him, because if Daredevil would have took it, Sanders would have been broken up or something. You know, he would have got beat up, any little thing, in order to get that card. But in order for him to walk back, nothing wrong, not a scratch on him, he knew that he gave it over willingly. And so we're back at the hideout. Karen is watching over Bullseye. He finally wakes up to find himself handcuffed to the bed. Karen is sitting there right next to him with a gun, ready for any little thing. He asks her if she's going to shoot him. She tells him if, that it was Vanessa that ordered the hit on Foggy. He was just completing the equation. And so he again expressed his intent to die, and Karen seems ready to oblige that wish, to grant him his wish, points the gun at his head, but Daredevil walked in and knocked the gun out of her hand with one of his bully clubs, or billy clubs, or whatever he calls it. Daredevil, it says he can't let her kill him. Karen is mad, and she tells Mad that he keeps choosing the wrong people. You know, he saved Fisk, he saved Bullseye, but he couldn't save the people he loved. You know, and but it cut like a knife. That one cut deep, and he didn't have an answer for it, because partially true. You know, he saves the villains, but the people who really suffer. The ones who love him and the ones he loved suffer around him. And so she asks him to let her kill Bullseye. Matt is shocked at her behavior at this point. She tells him that Kristoff didn't make it to the witness protection, and the video hasn't been broadcast anywhere. And so they have to assume everyone is dead at this point. You know, she tells him to basically grow up and leave. He tells him to leave. And so the protests, they keep getting bigger around the city. Powell is getting extremely friendly with Saunders, which is a clear indication that something's about to happen to him. Away from the action, you have BB and Daniel still at the house. They're enjoying a quiet dinner. During this birthday celebration, they're sharing stories of Daniel's childhood. BB, she goes to the bathroom. Daniel takes that opportunity to search her coat, and she takes a look at Daniel's childhood bedroom, and she starts to type up her little fake story that Daniel fed to her, and she has a change of heart, and she doesn't hit send because she was looking at all of the photos, little childhood photos of Daniel, and I guess, you know, the cooler heads prevailed or whatever. So she decided not to send the news story, which basically saved her life at that point, at least for now. Meanwhile, Daniel, he has a heart to heart with his mom, and who is proud of his success, and they all get back together and they cut the cake. Going back to the city, we see that the protesters start to don these little makeshift Daredevil masks, and I was looking out like, man, those some real good masks they put together, and he has this army of support that's still growing, and it seems like it's getting bigger, bigger and bigger every day. The governor gets a late night visit from Mr. Charles. He tells her that they have to solve her city hall problem, aka Wilson Fisk. BB, she gets ready to leave, and Daniel helps her with a coat. She tells him that she had a nice evening, wish him a happy birthday again. She leans in to give him a kiss, and he pulls back, and he pulls out the SD card that was in her jacket, and he tells her that he knows that she's the one behind that fake Kingpin videos and wants to know what's on the SD card, and she tries to explain, but he's too upset at this point. He's far gone. He's hot, So he tells her that they're both screwed at this point, and he's not sure if he can protect her anymore. And she's like, "Well, protect me from who?" And Daniel's phone is ringing, and he shows her the incoming call that he's getting, and it protects you from him and his buck that's calling at this time to check up on the situation. And so Karen disguises herself and reaches the protest. Wilson Fisk, he watches the streets from his office. Buck reaches him with an update that the governor has pulled her support for him, and the meeting is happening tomorrow. Fisk is about to respond, but Karen plays the video of the testimonials on side of the building. They had this big old projector that was projecting on side of City Hall there, and started showing those videos. All of the prisoners speak about how Fisk wrongfully held them prisoner, how Daredevil freed them, and of course the Kingpin discreetly leaves his office into his little secret exit, and the videos end with a message to resist and rebel. Kingpin returns to his lair and looks at the painting he bought from Vanessa, the one that signified their first meeting, and he gets a visitor, and it's none other than Daredevil. And I've been waiting for this all season, and I didn't realize that this is the first time that we see them this season in the same scene, just them. And it's funny how you don't realize you missed something until you get it. And I was hyped up for this moment because I knew it was about to go down. Finally, we're going to get another Kingpin Daredevil fight. And so Daredevil, he offers his condolences. Fisk says he's not surprised to see him, and he asks him if that's why he came. Did you come to give your condolences? Really? That's why you're here? And Daredevil tells him that he's not even sure what the two of them are fighting about anymore. It's gotten to the point, I don't even know why we're fighting. And it's like that in life. You ever be mad at somebody so long, and then you see that person after a while, and you're mad, but you forget what you're mad about? And that's basically where Daredevil is right now. He's like, what? I don't even know why we're fighting anymore, And is it about New York? Is it about the people? What is it? And so nobody is going to win, and that they should end this now. Let's just end it now. And he tells him that he's not going to stop as long as Fisk is up to his illegal activities. And he knows Fisk is not going to stop. He knows that he has no plan to stop. And so Daredevil also asks Fisk what it'll take for him to just walk away, then just leave New York. Then Daredevil will leave. If you leave, Daredevil will leave. And Fisk says nothing. Nothing he can give him, nor take away. Nothing. And so Daredevil asks him to imagine if they'd never met. Then maybe Foggy and Vanessa would probably still be alive. And at that was it. That was the switch. And that caused Fisk to just go ham. And the fight began. They had a awesome fight. It was an awesome fight. This was one of the best fights. Very subtle. You know, it wasn't grandioso, but it was nice. It was a nice hand-to-hand combat fight between these. Would you classify Kingpin as a super being? You know, because he does some extraordinary things. He's definitely above average strength. We've seen that. The dude punched through a brick wall in this fight. He is awesome, man. Awesomely powerful. Daredevil and Kingpin, they continue to fight on. Yet outside Powell, he gets the message from Buck and goes up to Saunders and tells him that he knew he was the mole. I know that you gave your key card to Daredevil, and kills him. And Cole, the other officer, he's like, man, what are you doing? He's like, what are you doing? And Powell spent it, you know, he's like, oh, the protesters scared Saunders, so that now we got the okay to use brutal force. We can start taking these protesters out. The fight continues between Daredevil and Kingpin. Fisk, he finally manages to grab Daredevil, land a big blow before he starts just curve stomping. And he then throws him into the painting, destroying the painting, and begins to beat Matt to the ground. Daredevil finally asks him if this is what he really wants. And Kingpin says, this is what we both want. And Daredevil finally takes the kids' gloves off, I guess you could say, and begins fighting back. Daredevil, I think I said Kingpin, but Daredevil, he took the gloves off at this point. He started fighting back. He starts using the billy clubs, and he takes Kingpin down. Easily one of the better fights that they've had. Easily one of the better fights. Yeah. This is probably better than the Netflix fight between those two. It's just something about this fight just looked better. And it was in a tighter area. It just, everything about it looked better. But anyway, Daredevil, he ended things with a really awesome move. He used the billy clubs to strangle Fisk before delivering a running knee strike to the face and knocking him out. The task force outside, they attacked the protesters, Karen and Angela, and I forgot the other character's name, Javi, I think. They get caught up in the crossfire. Javi gets knocked down, and the two of them go to help him. And Karen's wig gets pulled off. Back at the fight, Wilson gets back up finally and asks Daredevil if he's going to arrest him. And tells him, you can't arrest me. You're not a cop. Then I guess you're going to kill me. And then he's like, no, you can't, because you don't kill. And so the episode ends with Daredevil walking out of that lair. And then we flash to the protest. Karen instead kind of stooped over Javi. I believe that's the character's name. And Powell, he identifies Karen. He's like, oh, Karen Page, and points his weapon at her as she puts her hands in the air as she is being taken prisoner. And we fade to black on episode 6. This was a really good episode. Not super strong. It's not the strongest of the season by far, but entertaining nonetheless. We got 2 episodes left. I figured this one would probably be the quote unquote filler episode. even though it really wasn't a filler, but it was slow. Despite the fact we got a Jessica Jones fight, team up with Daredevil fight, Daredevil and Kingpin fight. We got some story lines moving along. I still felt this was a little slower of an episode, but and also we didn't get enough of Jessica Jones. Where was she at the end of this episode? It would have been nice to see her kind of incorporated at the end there, but hopefully she pops up in one of these last two episodes before this season wraps up. Once again, I even though this was a weaker episode in comparisons to the rest of this season, I still enjoyed this episode. Still excited to see what's next. Next week, the penultimate episode, episode 7. It promises a very interesting development in this story, with Karen being captured now. Daredevil, I mean, he has to recover from the beating he took from Kingpin, so he can't immediately go after her like he could or want to. Will he get help from Bullseye to help him out? I wouldn't like that, because I'm tired of seeing villains redeemed. Let a villain be a villain. And this is your arch villain here in Daredevil speak. So I don't know. I don't know where they go. Maybe Jessica Jones returns and helps him out. Maybe Luke Cage pops up. Who knows? We'll see. It's a lot that can happen here. This is clearly by far the best thing Marvel has put out in years. So I am super excited and happy that we are receiving this. How do you feel about Daredevil so far? What did you think of episode 6? Are you happy to see Jessica Jones back or debut officially in the MCU? Let me know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Concession Stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Episode 6, Requiem. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.